new level of happiness and a dynamic new hope for the future. Preface to the second edition. When I decided to preach a sermon on angels, I found practically nothing in my library. Upon investigation, I soon discovered that little had been written on the subject in this century. This seemed a strange and ominous omission. Bookstores and libraries have shelves of books on demons, the occult, and the devil. Why was the devil getting so much more attention from writers than angels? Some people seem to put the devil on a par with God. Actually, Satan is a fallen angel. Even when people in our modern age have had their attention drawn to the subject of angels from time to time, those ideas have often been fanciful or unbiblical. At the time of writing the preface to this second edition, a popular television program tells the story of an angel who has been sent to earth in the form of a man to help people who are facing problems. The popularity of the program suggests many people find it great entertainment, but I cannot help but feel it also reinforces the idea in many minds that angels are just a product of our imagination, like Santa Claus or magical elves. But the Bible stresses their reality and underlines their constant, if unseen, ministry on behalf of God's people. In a materialistic world that nevertheless is riddled with evil and suffering, we need to discover afresh the Bible's teaching about angels. The English painter Sir Edward Coley Burne-Jones wrote to Oscar Wilde that the more materialistic science becomes, the more angels shall I paint. Their wings are my protest in favor of the immortality of the soul. Angels have a much more important place in the Bible than the devil and his demons. Therefore, I undertook a biblical study of the subject of angels. Not only has it been one of the most fascinating studies of my life, but I believe the subject is more relevant today than perhaps at any time in history. The Bible teaches that angels intervene in the affairs of nations. God often uses them to execute judgment on nations. They guide, comfort, and provide for the people of God in the midst of suffering and persecution. Martin Luther once said in Table Talk, "An angel is a spiritual creature without a body created by God for the service of Christendom and the Church." As an evangelist, I have often felt too far spent to minister from the pulpit to men and women who have filled stadiums to hear a message from the Lord. Yet again and again, my weakness has vanished and my strength has been renewed. I've been filled with God's power, not only in my soul, but physically. On many occasions, God has become especially real and has sent his unseen angelic visitors to touch my body, to let me be his messenger for heaven, speaking as a dying man to dying men. In the midst of a world that seems destined to live in a perpetual state of crisis, the subject of angels will be of great comfort and inspiration to believers in God, and a challenge to unbelievers to believe. This new edition of the book is largely as it was written in 1975. I have added some new material and expanded certain points. It is still my prayer that God will use this book to bring comfort to the sick and the dying, to bring encouragement to those who are under the pressures of everyday living, and to bring guidance to those who are frustrated by the events of our generation. Billy Graham, Montreat, North Carolina. Chapter 1. Are angels God's secret agents? My wife, who was born and raised in China, recalls that in her childhood days tigers lived in the mountains. One day a poor woman went up to the foothills to cut grass. To her back was tied a baby, and a little child walked beside her. In her hand she carried a sharp sickle to cut grass. Just as she reached the top of the hill, she heard a roar. Frightened, almost speechless, she looked around to see a mother tigress springing at her, followed by two cubs. This illiterate Chinese mother had never attended school or entered a church. She had never seen a Bible. But a year or two earlier, a missionary had told her about Jesus, who was able to help you when you are in trouble. As the claws of the tigress tore her arm and shoulder, the woman cried out in a frenzy, "Oh, Jesus, help me!" The ferocious